Water reminds me that we're all connected and that there are so many layers within story, within flow, within time. Water is the multilinear. Water is story within story within story. Water is my family. I take a deep breath and I end with acknowledging and gratitude to water and to what it means. Hi, my name is Jumana Emil Abboud and we're here at the Jameel Arts Centre in Dubai for my show, The Storyteller and the Obedient Tide. So much of my artwork has been inspired over the several years by these 7 springs. My work is almost like the way that water is in character. At least that's how I like to think about it. What do I mean? I try to make it so that my practice is a slow practice. It's a repetitive practice. It is a practice that insists. It's a practice that can be transparent, but can also be mysterious, mystified, can have plurality, ambiguity. It has different faces from monster to princess. The way that folklore stories, the way that water is in character, that's how I try to use as my method for making my art. The glass work, the glass discs, the mirrors. I want to talk about this project because for me it embodies so much of everything that I have been looking into over the past 5-6 years within the water lore, collaboration, metaphors, the language of my practice. These glass pieces, they really embody that language. And for me, they have within them all the elements that I've looked into. I'm in a way wanting to ask the visitor that question: where is your spirit held? What do your eyes see when they look? Not just when they look at water, when they look at my art, but also when they look in the mirror, that the way the glass also is reflecting and the way the work on exhibit is reflecting like a mirror. My spoken word performances are I believe, a more abstract retelling of the folk stories. And the 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional works on exhibit are fragments and traces that are inspired by the folk stories. So I don't necessarily require that the viewer, the visitor to the exhibition, know exactly what the stories are. This is very important. I really want the visitor to try and ask what is the work that they're looking at, and ask it for herself or for himself. I am so grateful and I am so thrilled to see my work come together in this way, with thanks to the wonderful team at Art Jameel, everyone really. Because sometimes as an artist, you work in your studio or you work on field and you research for many years. And yes, you will have an exhibition where you can exhibit a fragment or a component of it. But what is, I believe, different in this exhibition, my first solo in the Gulf region, is that it is bringing together, it's the culmination of all of my research. It's not bringing together simply a fragment of it, but really the whole story, the whole narrative. I want the viewer to reflect on where are there areas in their lives that they don't have access to and why. Where are there areas in Palestine where water is denied to Palestinians and why? Where are there bits of our own heritage, of your culture, of any stories that you want to carry on to future generations? Where are they? And what do you want to say to future generations?
When I started working with Jumana, I realized that she's a storyteller artist, and it's very much a hybrid role that she plays. And a huge part about understanding her practice was also trying to understand how she functions as a storyteller, and her mind of a storyteller, which means that she would go from telling stories within stories, and that was a great way to understand her research. Hello, I'm Indranjan Banerjee, curator of exhibitions at Art Jameel, and I'm the curator of Jumana Emil Abboud's solo exhibition, The Storyteller and the Obedient Tide, at the Jameel Arts Centre. The first gallery begins with the landscape at the center, the landscape of Palestine, and how she introduces the enchanted landscape, which is the water bodies, the land, the various springs, and its enchantments to the audience through her work. The second gallery introduces the landscape through its reflections. It's not a direct entry point to the landscape, but how through her practice she has been able to hold reflections, refractions, and various transformations of the landscape. And in the third gallery, we have her walking through the landscape as a ritual act, as an embodied ritual act, and how a vow is presented with the landscape. What was essential for this exhibition, The Storyteller and the Obedient Tide, was to understand how to center the landscape and the many emotions and affects of landscape.